Welcome to That's So Rad podcast. I'm your host, Travis Vonksness. This is a podcast about people, their passions, their life experiences, and their stories. As writer Frederick Buechner once said, the story of any one of us is in some measure the story of us all. All of us can learn something valuable from someone else's life and their stories. Join us for another conversation where we learn, laugh, and leave, seeing our own life in new ways. What's more rad than that? Welcome to another episode of That's So Rad podcast. I'm your host, Travis, and I'm really honored today to be joined by my guest, John Thompson, for so many reasons. One of the things is this podcast has been a little bit nostalgic. If you've been listening, I grew up in North Dakota and born in 79, but left the state in 98. But so much of my time there was formative in that span as I graduated high school. So part of this podcast has been the nostalgia of going back, whether it's been classmates or just talking about North Dakota. It's come up a lot, and now that I'm middle-aged and stuff like that. And so what's really fascinating to me is there's a convergence on multiple levels here of my time growing up in North Dakota to the story of my guest, which we're going to get into. And personally, in our own family, we had an accident that completely changed the rest of our family's life in a split second, which I can really see that in sort of John's story. John has an absolutely unbelievable story that he will get into. But basically, he lost his arms in a farm accident in 1992. And again, we're going to unpack all of that kind of was entailed in all of this, but just a little background on John before you say any more about yourself was that he now has become, or for years since the accident, has been a national speaker on farm safety. His story has been shared globally. He's been featured on big programs like Good Morning America, Dateline, major talk shows. People magazine covered his story with a piece, Too Tough to Die. What a title. And then he's an author. So beyond just a speaker, motivational speaker, now, John, you are an author with the book Home in One Piece, which I've read. Fantastic book. We're going to talk more about that as well. John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Hope you're enjoying your day.
I'm having a great day. Yeah, it's I'm in South Carolina, and it's a hot one out there, but yeah, having a good day. And yeah, did you want to add anything else about personal to your life, or anything else you want to just share about yourself?
No, you made me sound pretty good, actually, so I didn't add too much. So.
And that wasn't even from your agent. That was me just mining all the
Exactly.
what's out there. There we go. So as I kind of said, like, I'm going to set this story up a little bit where, so John, so the accident that we're going to be talking about occurred is the winter of 92, correct? January?
Yep, January 11th.
Okay. So I actually grew up in the town of Rugby, North Dakota, which is only from your town. What are we, an hour and a half or?
Yeah, about straight north.
Straight north. And I was, I believe, 13 at the time of your story happening, because I froze me in time. I mean, we all remember those, whether it was 9/11 or, these things where you just remember where you were. And I was 13, midst of farm work with my dad. We had crappy old machinery. I always joke that, like, for us to get our combines fixed, we had to go to the museum to find parts. And it was just, that.
We had a Gleaner L2.
Okay. Yep. Oh. So that's I'm telling you, we were rocking something, and this is like in the late 90s from, I think, the early 70s. It was a 6600 John Deere.
Oh.
But it was ancient, which I'm also wearing the John Deere farm hat here. I had to bring that. That's my prop. But
I'm a Chalmers guy.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Well, I have an orange logo here, so we can get down with that. But I do remember just being just captivated, hearing the story of, the accident and then sort of the aftermath. And then, and I think it also, because I was a teenager running farm equipment, running similar probably stuff to you, where I just remember, man, this could be me at any moment, or how was this not me? And so that converges again with also our own family story of a tragic car accident. And so really, my heart really connected to your story and your book, kind of in how you detail that. So, um, if before we get into, and you have told this thing, who knows? I mean, hundreds of thousands
Oh,
of.
yeah.
I mean, that's just like. But before we get into that, and that's going to kind of really be the subject more of this podcast today. This is random, but is there something, kind of a fact about you that few people would know? Strange fear, hidden talent, weird habit.
When I was in the hospital, I was bored. I learned to do the alphabet backwards. So
Dang.
it worked out nice when I got pulled over coming home from the bar. So,
Well, that's a really great random. I love that. There's there's some days I don't know if I can get through the alphabet going forwards. I feel like sometimes, but that's fast. You would well, and that okay. That begs the question. Is because what's fascinating to me too is like this is the early '90s. So when we picture now, like even how your hospital stay would have been different. Sitting on an iPhone with Instagram all day, right? Like,
um,
what did you, I mean, the TV, I guess, the local cable channels and
yeah, we just had a regular TV in my room,
yeah.
but I couldn't use the remote to change the channels or nothing. So
Oh
when the
yeah.
hospital built me, they built a pad for I can hit with my feet. So
Oh
it was
wow.
probably about 3 inches big. And I had like
Wow.
my nurse call the radio, the TV, the channels, and the volume, and they especially
Okay.
made this pad just for me. And now they've licensed it, and actually hospitals now carry it
That's crazy.
for people that don't have
That
hands to use.
that is crazy. Wow. Well, so there's a great quote by probably North Dakota's most famous reporter, who national reporter, news anchor, actually, Eric Severide. I love this line. He said, North Dakota was a large rectangular spot in the nation's mind, a large rectangular blank spot in the nation's mind. But that changed in the winter of 92. That blank spot would be filled with the face of an 18-year-old high schooler, and North Dakota was on the map across the world. Let's just get right into the story, John. And you just feel free to, you've said it so many times, if you want to take a different angle, but even a summary, and just take it where you want it to go. Set the
Basically,
scene,
it
man.
was just working on my farm with my dog, Tuffy, who was a blue heeler. I got him as a pup at the cattle sales in South Dakota. And I was unloading barley from a grain truck into a grain hopper in the grain auger, which was ran off the PTO shaft off our 190L Chalmers tractor. And I didn't have my shirt tucked in. And they figured it was a long insulated shirt, a thick one. And they figured the front of it got caught on the shaft somehow. And it spins this way, and it just wrapped it in. And like, I just remember waking up from the ground, but years later I did a safety video, and they tied a camera to a shaft and spun it. And then when I saw the video of it, then I remembered me being stuck on it, and then I remembered spinning. Because
Wow.
it kind of scared me at first. When I saw it spinning, I'm like, oh crap, I remember that now, because I
Dang.
had blocked it out. So,
That's crazy. Wow. So just also for reference, as I read your book, for people that, farming and this whole thing, as you've explained, is completely, I have no idea what you're hardly talking about. What we're talking about too is this auger, which is taking the barley, right? It was barley that you were,
yeah.
okay. So out of, that's going up into, I guess, the grain bin or wherever you were dumping
Yeah,
it.
it's like a corkscrew inside of a tube,
Yeah, that's a
and
good
it
way to
just
say
pulls
it.
the grain up and dumps it.
Yep.
They're like 50 feet long or whatever, dumps in the top of the bin.
Yep.
And at the bottom is a big hopper you put the grain into and just collects it down there.
Yep.
And then the PTO shaft's like about a square inch or 2 inch square tube that
Yep.
just spins really quick and
And I
didn't have a
got
shield on it.
And I got this from your book, that the PTO spin rate, because for people are like, what? Okay, 100 times per second.
Well,
Dang, that's for
tractor
your book.
idles,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it
But
was pretty
somewhere in
quick.
there, that's fast. That's moving.
Um,
So that's like a blur. And so when your, I guess, clothes got caught or whatever got caught, I mean, it's just boom. Like, and
yeah,
so,
it just spun me
uh,
on there for a little bit, and then I just woke up on the ground, and I was laying on my right side, and I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't tell. And I was looking around. I looked at my left arm, and I couldn't notice anything, and I thought it was broken behind my back. And meanwhile, I was trying to push myself with my right arm, but I wasn't moving. And then I looked at the right arm, And then I noticed it was missing because when I pulled the right arm off, it took the skin off from the shoulder down and just left a stump. Then I looked back at the left arm, then I noticed this one was gone. When it took the left arm off, it took the arm but left a lot of the skin left, so it was just skin hanging down. And then, only reason why I woke up is because my dog Tuffy was licking my face. Otherwise, I never would have even woken up. So
It's incredible.
glad he was there for me.
Yeah.
And then I just I kind of sat up a little bit and put my back against the tractor tire and just pushed myself up. And I just stood there and looked at myself again and realized what had happened. And I screamed for just a split second. And my dog Tuffy was sitting right in front of me with his head to the side and ears sticking up. And he just looked right at me. I just focused on him, and I just shut down and completely relaxed. And then I went and tried to turn the tractor off, but I couldn't get up on the tractor to shut it off. And then him and I walk up to the house together.
Well, and that's going to be the next phase we're going to go over. I wanted to say, when I read your book and how you just described right now, I was struck by, because all the details that I think you flesh out more, where I'm like, even just picturing myself like, okay, so your arms have been, pulled off, you're obviously bleeding, but to have the wherewithal or the ability then to fairly quickly be able to, like, because I'm like, how would you get off the ground? But you were able to. Well, I'm saying, like, I would think, like most people, okay, now what do I even do next? I don't have my arms to get off the ground. You're able to, I guess, think to back up the tractor wheel to, use that force to get you up. I'm like, that alone was awesome. I mean,
yeah, because the auger's in the back of the tractor, and I was able to sit myself up, and then lean forward and got up, and then I just scooted over because it was icy out. I slid over the tractor tire and just pushed myself against the tire and just forced myself up. Just kind of wiggled my way up. And
so how far did you have to go from the tractor once you were up to the house on this next part?
It's probably about a football field, like 300-400 feet was all. So it wasn't
okay.
Like some people say it was miles. It was like 300-400 feet was all.
The legend grows. Okay.
Yeah.
But still, that's far.
Yeah, it's a ways throwing the arms. So
with no arms on ice, possibly, and
then not having any balance whatsoever.
Oh my gosh.
So I remember Tuffy was by my right side the entire time, and my ulnar nerve was hanging out of my shoulder, and that was swinging back and forth. I remember this was in January, and when it took my arms off, it took my shirt and my jacket off also, so I was bare-chested. And I'm walking up, and this ulnar nerve swinging back and forth. My dog's looking at me, and I was kind of afraid he might go for the nerve.
Right.
Swinging.
Right.
And then I remember because I was walking, like this, and it was swinging back and forth. It came and slapped me in the chest and just stuck to my chest, and just stuck there until I got up to the house.
Wow. So, I think I'm also struck by, as you even tell us now too, of like how many of these things were just happening in real time in split seconds that are like, you can't prepare. I mean, you cannot prepare for any of this. Like you just said, okay, it's not as if you have time to adapt to what it's like to balance without arms. You literally now are without arms, walking to your house, and have to split seconds as you're bleeding out, figure out, kind of balancing. And then now you described this nerve swinging, which, I mean, it's just like, it's mind blowing to even like go, how am I even, is this happening? Is this happening?
I get that from a lot of people. It's like, how did you ever think to do that? And I'm like, I didn't. It just was completely automatic and didn't think anything of it. And, I just had my dog with me, and he was just looking at me the whole time. And he didn't even wake me up, but he kept me calm the entire time. I mean, I was just totally focused on him. So
that's incredible. I think I was really struck by that too in the story, Tuffy, of just like right there with you, helped you wake up, walking alongside you, keeping you calm. I mean, all these things that your dog, the pivotal role.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If it wasn't for him, I'd been dead. And if it was for him later in the story, I wouldn't have both my arms if it wasn't for him. And he did everything for me.
Okay. So as we continue the story, you get to the house, right? You were alone at the farmstead?
Yeah. My parents were down in Bismarck visiting my cousin who was in a car accident. And him and I got to the house and we went up on our deck because we had the sliding door there. And I thought I'd be able to open up the slide. But it was winter, it was froze. But I had my boots on, my cowboy boots. So I was trying to slide it with my boots by pushing on it. I couldn't do it. But I still had the bone sticking on my left arm. And so I stuck the bone in the handle on the patio, trying to slide it, but just bent back because it was busted. And then him and I walked into the garage then, and that I was able to get my boot in between the screen door and the frame and open that one up. And then I just dropped to my knees and bit the doorknob with my mouth and turned with my head to get that doorknob open and then get into the house. And then my dog
Wow.
Tuffy, he stayed outside then. So, because he never ever came
Okay.
in the house. He was
So he
not,
knew at that point. Yeah.
yeah, he would never come in the house,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Yeah. What a good dog. Okay. So, and that's the thing is like there's this sequence of events that just continue to be the next just unbelievable, I guess, thing, part of the
Yeah.
dramatic nature of the story. So you finally get in and you're massive loss of blood.
Yeah, I'm standing there at the entry door, and I got the little square rug at the door there. I'm bleeding all over that. I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's a lot of blood here. And my indoor dog was a teacup toy poodle, and she's going nuts, barking at me. And I was trying to figure out how to get the rug to go with me to get across the house to the phone. And, again, this is back in the 90s
Right.
where all of our phones were rotary dial yet. We only had one phone in the whole house that was a push
Yeah.
button. And that
Right.
was in our office, that was on top of the desk. And so I knew I had to get to the office phone because that had the buttons on it. And I tried getting this rug to go with me by scooching my feet, but it didn't want to go. And so I just got across the house really quick and into the office. But then that door was also shut. And I hit it with my knee and it didn't open. So I thought, well, I hit it really hard. So I hit it really good, but then I just put a hole in the door. And then I just got on my knees again and bit that doorknob and turned it with my head and got in there. And then once I was in the office, I walked over the phone and, like I said, it was on the desk. And I just knocked it off with my nose. And then I was trying to dial with my nose at first. And I was trying to dial a gal I was really good friends with.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept getting the wrong number. Or the operator, back then we had an
Yep.
operator tell you it was wrong. I
Yeah.
kept getting her, or a recording of it.
Okay.
And then I finally got through and her line was busy. And so then I hung up and then I tried my cousin, but then I decided to get a pencil. So I got a pencil with my teeth and we used an eraser end to punch all the numbers. It was way easier. And then I got a hold of my cousin, Tammy, and she answered right away. And she's like, hello. And I said, hey, this is John. I need an ambulance. And she's like, why? I said, well, I lost my arms. I said, I don't have any arms, call an ambulance. And she's like, yeah, whatever. What are you doing? And it took me a few times to tell her before she realized I wasn't lying. And because I like to play a lot of jokes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she just thought I was kidding. And then she realized I was telling the truth. And even with that, I knew since I called her, I knew I had to hang up on my end for her to call out. So
Oh.
then I hung up the phone. And then she called her mother-in-law. And then the mother-in-law called the hospital or her stepmom. Then the
Okay.
stepmom called the ambulance for me. And then
Gotcha.
she called her mother. And then her and her mom came out. But after I got off the phone with her, I went and sat in the bathtub because I was still bleeding so heavily
Yeah.
that I didn't want to get blood on everything. So I went and sat in the bathtub. And luckily, when I went in, the shower curtain was closed. And so I was able to get behind the shower curtain, just sat in there. And I call it a farmer sit, where you just sit in your heels, kind of. And I just sat down on my heels and put my back against the back of the shower and just sat there waiting for the ambulance crew to show up.
Mm.
So,
Did you, I feel like I read this? Was there something where you'd kind of said too, like from what you learned later from the doctors and stuff, that if you would have had, was it partial severings or something of your limbs, like you would have for sure bled out? Was that versus having the way that it, or
I have I don't know.
okay, yeah, I didn't know if there was something with the way it's. I felt like I read something where the way the arteries were anyway, but it's still yeah.
There's different theories. They can't explain it.
Yeah.
I have newscasts where they said that they've asked doctors why didn't he die from bleeding, and I medically didn't have any blood left in me. I mean, I was completely bled out. And the only thing they can say is I had so much adrenaline going that's the only thing that kept me going was just a massive amount of adrenaline that was pumping in me.
Yeah.
Is what kept it going.
So one of the other things I was struck by in your story, and kind of just keep expounding what you want to say, is this is in rural North Dakota in the 90s, in which I'm going to guess similar here now in some of the rural areas where it's a volunteer ambulance crew. And what I thought was really fascinating in the way you described this was because it puts people's perspective of what this experience was like too on another level, is some of these people are people that maybe they were they were a banker in town, or they're a face from somebody in town, right? So you might have a history with who's about to come out here, and these aren't just like full-time people that's all they do. I mean,
And it's all still the same. I
Yep.
mean, because I was sitting in the bathtub, and then my aunt was the first one to show up. She got out there probably 5, 10 minutes after I made the call. And then her and my cousin came in the house, and they're yelling for me. I said, I'm in the bathtub, but don't come in here. I said, I don't have any arms. It's gross. Don't look at me.
Yeah.
And my aunt came in anyway. But luckily the shower curtain was closed, so she couldn't see me. And she kept saying, John, let me help you. I said, no, don't look at me. I said, I won't let her see me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we talked for a good 5, 10 minutes. And as we were talking, I just kept getting weaker and weaker because I was still bleeding. And I said, I'm going to pass out. I said, I can't sit here anymore. I'm going to fall over. I'm going to pass out. And they said, let me help you. And then I finally let her open the curtain to help me out. And she just opened the curtain up and took a look at me and just took a regular breath and grabbed me by my torso and lifted me up and sat me on the stool beside her. And then I just leaned up against her on her shoulder, and she put her arms around me. We just kind of sat there and talked. And I leaned against her, and Tammy was outside waiting for the ambulance to show up. And we just talked for, it took 28 minutes for the ambulance to get there. Because
Wow.
they had to come from about 18 miles away. And
Jeez.
back then, like I said, it's all volunteer.
Yeah.
And so you call a regular phone number. It wasn't 911 yet. So you call a regular 7-digit number. It rings all the phones on the ambulance service. So they
Oh.
answer. Then they all have to go to town to get together to where the
Oh,
ambulance is sitting at. So
jeez.
they all get there convened. And they go, okay, we got a guy. He needs this and that. So you try to get everything in the ambulance and get all the people there to come with. And once everybody's there, then they come out to see me. And also back then, we didn't have street addresses. We were just rural
Yep.
Route 1, the
Yep.
Thompson
Yep.
farm.
Yep.
And so if they don't know where they're going, it's like you got to give them directions. Like, well, you turn a mile north here, you turn down the tree that blew down the storm last year. And you kind of, some of these farms are 20 miles on the country where you like a lot of
Yeah,
turns that are impossible to find.
for sure.
And now we have street addresses on 911. But, they finally came out there. And I'll never forget it because I called my 3 little ducks. Because when they showed up, they thought they're coming to a broken arm, is what they thought. They just heard I had hurt my arm. And so they thought my arm was broke. Well, they come in the house and they see blood over the walls, blood on the
Right.
floor. They're like, what the heck's going on out here? And they're like, we're in the bathroom. And they walked in, looked at me, their mouths dropped, and turned around and walked back out. And I call them my 3 little ducks because they kind of walked in a row like that. And they're like, oh, geez. And they turned around and left. And I'm just sitting there like, what's going on? And, they had to go outside and recover themselves. They were just
Oh, so
in,
that's okay.
they're in complete
Di-
shock. Yeah.
wow. So they come in and they are like, we have to remove ourselves for a second.
Yeah. They had to go
Wow.
get themselves collected because they were just completely. And the thing that was even worse, because it was from my hometown I went to high school at.
Yep.
And the one gal was a school bus driver. The other gal was my underclassmate's mom. And the other guy was our elevator manager. And Rick, the elevator manager, he just started on EMS, and this is the very first run he's ever done.
Oh my
He's never done it
gosh.
before, so I was his first one
No
to deal with.
way. His first
So,
call?
yeah. So it was a big experience for them, for him especially.
I think like I'm struck by even as we're talking right now of like it's like the continued next layer of like compounding more dramatic thing. I mean, even the way I loved how you described like this is pre the address situation, pre GPS. You've got, and then these people have to collect and get together, then come out, and then on top of that, they aren't full-time professionals doing this, who
Yeah.
come to what's a wrong call actually, and someone's first shift, and it's like everything lines up to where like this thing is, it gets crazier by the
Yeah.
minute.
I mean, like even with Rick, like the elevator manager, he got called to the elevator. Well, he's working, so he's covered in elevator dust and everything. So he has to clean himself up and get washed before he can get in the ambulance to come get me. I mean,
Unbelievable.
it's not like they're just, it's not the easiest. I mean, the volunteer ambulance EMS people are just phenomenal heroes. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just the best things there
Yeah.
are. So,
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. To do that, to face all that on top of like just regular life and what they're doing.
yeah. And then knowing everybody you're taking care of and being such good
Yes.
friends. And
Yeah, yeah.
so,
I have a relative that yeah had done some volunteer EMS stuff, and talking about, or the EMT volunteer stuff. What also that dynamic is like in a small town to also know people like that, where like it could be a classmate you're going to the scene of,
yeah.
or yeah, that's a whole nother dimension too. That someone in a big city, this is what they do, may not ever experience that type of
Yeah.
reality. But like, oh, so
Then me being young too, that makes an
sure.
effect. And
Yeah.
so,
So they get themselves together and come back. The ducklings come back in.
yeah.
Okay.
And there's not a whole lot they can really do because there's
Sure.
nothing there. They're completely
Yep.
gone.
Yep.
They're just stumps. They can't put tourniquets on because there's nowhere to put one.
Wow.
And so like, okay, well, we'll get this figured out. And Rick's like, where's your arms at? And I said, they're down at the grain bin. I said, go down, shut the tractor off and close the truck up because everything's still running.
Sure.
And so he went down to retrieve my arms. Well, then he goes down there, and the other two gals are trying to figure out what to do with me and talking to my aunt and me what we're going to do. And Rick went down to the tractor, and my dog Tuffy went with him. And the one arm was laying right underneath the PTO shaft behind the tractor. It still had it was in the sleeves and everything yet.
Okay.
And he picked up that one, and then he was looking around for my other arm, but he couldn't find it. And time was running out because we had to get to the hospital. He's like, well, it must have fallen in the grain hopper and went through the auger and dumped in the grain bin. So they just planned on sending somebody else out to retrieve the arm and bring it to the hospital later. And then, so he started walking back to the house. Well, then my dog started barking at him, and he knew what was going on. And he looked back, and my dog was standing over my other arm, which got flung about 30 or 40 feet away. It was in between the grain bins. And my
Wow.
dog Tuffy was standing over it. And
Oh,
it was for my dog. I would never got my arm back. I mean, he
wow.
told Rick, this is the other arm, come get this arm for him.
Wow.
And then Rick went back down to the bin and picked up my second arm and brought them both up to the house. And he came in, he's like, I got both your arms. Where's the garbage bag and ice? And I said, well, garbage bags are in the laundry room, the second drawer in the bottom. As there's ice in the upstairs freezer, there's ice and bags downstairs. And he was packing them up all on ice. And we got all that done. And they said, okay, we're going to bring the stretcher in and we're going to go. And I said, okay. So they brought the stretcher in the house, but they couldn't get into the bathroom where I was at because the doors were too narrow in the hallway.
Yep.
And they said, well, we can't get the stretcher in here. We're going to try to figure out how to get you to the stretcher. And I'm like, well, I can still walk. My legs are fine. And they're like, really, you can walk? I said, yeah, I walked up here. It's no big, I can get up and walk to it. And then my aunt just helped me stand up, and we just walked to the stretcher and laid down in there, and they strapped me on. That was the first scary thing I had
Okay.
was going out of the house because I didn't have any arms for balance. I couldn't hold myself.
Yeah.
And we had to go, it's a ranch house. It's up like 4
Yep.
steps.
Yep.
And they took me off the patio, and they started tilting me a little bit. And I just freaked out that I was going to fall off the stretcher and hurt myself.
Oh my God. Right.
They're
Yeah.
trying to keep me calm. You're fine. You're strapped on. We're not going to drop you. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to fall off here. And that was terrifying. So
You're like, I got to the house myself, no arms. Now I don't trust that you guys can get me safely
exactly.
then.
I was terrified of falling the stupid stretcher. So
Well, but that's what I love kind of in your book too, like where you're kind of like detailing these sort of moments like that where you have this thought and you're like, it's kind of a funny like moment of just like,
yes.
just all these things that are coming through your mind.
I mean,
Yeah.
I joke a lot. I like to have fun. I like to make light of everything.
Sure.
And one thing, people get really offended when people say they never laughed so much when they read my book. Like, how could you laugh at such a horrible story? I'm like, because it's funny. I said, I'm a funny dude. There's funny things in the book that are worth laughing
Yeah,
at.
I was laughing. Yeah, I agree. Like, yeah, there
I
were.
mean, I wanted it to be not something heavy and horrible. I wanted it to be, there's a lot of good times too that came out of it. So
Yeah, I think you really accomplished that. Yeah, it felt like, and I think what makes it and we'll get into the book more later too, but I think what also makes the book powerful in that sense is like, it's because that's how life is. Life is a mix of shadows and light. And, right. And I think we'd laugh minutes away from crying. And I mean, and so that book, you really wove just being real in.
Yeah, it's a good roller coaster, I think, of emotions.
Yep.
So I keep it going.
Yeah, you did.
Even the ambulance going to the hospital, because it was 28 miles to the hospital.
Yep.
So I'm laying in the ambulance and it was like, okay, Rick was driving. And after a while, I was like, well, how fast are we going? Remember Joan, the one lady, she looked up the speedometer and told Rick to slow down. And I'm like, what do you mean slow down? And, Rick was headed to the floors. Saying I do have a speed limit, but he didn't care. And I remember yelling at them for doing that. And then I told them to turn the sirens on. They said, well, we don't want to do that because we don't want to excite you. And I said, well, I'm bored. Turn the sirens on. When I hear the sirens
When I hear it, I'm in it.
Yeah. They went turn the sirens on for me. And I remember when we got to Harvey, because I remember Rick just getting really upset because a car in front of us wouldn't pull over. And I'm
Oh,
like, turn the
okay.
siren. I'm yelling after the siren's on. And I remember it was a green car, an older green car, because I could see
Okay.
it out the back doors of the
Okay.
ambulance. So we finally got around her. It
Yep.
was some lady in a green car that went pull over for the ambulance. So
Oh my gosh.
I was mad.
You're right.
So,
That's
but
crazy. Well, and then so I grew, my hometown is like 40 minutes from Harvey, I think, and I didn't even know there was a hospital there. So I learned
yeah,
that I one of the things that as we go to that part of the story next, I I think I laughed reading in your book. You had a comment. I think the doctor you said something at some point. The receiving doctor said something like, "Are you? Is this the guy that said, are you going to make it?" That he asked
yeah,
you
that was
that?
Dr. Nias.
Okay.
They
And
called
I'm
ahead.
laughing, thinking, isn't that what you ask a doctor? Like, am I gonna? He's asking you that.
Uh, it was Dr. Nias. He was at Jamestown. He was just there
Okay.
taking over for his brother. I think it
Yep.
was Curtis Nias.
Okay.
And they called ahead, let him know I was coming in. And I got there, and they're like, "Are you going to be okay? Are you going to make it?" So I came this far. I'm going to go all the way with it. And
Let's go.
yeah, because I remember laying, because I got in there, they rolled me in the gurney,
Mm-hmm.
and they had transferred me to the ER table, and they were trying to slide me. And I'm like, "Well, I can just get up and walk over." And like, "No, you can't." They were like, "Ugh." And so they got me on that table. And, I grew up and just laying there,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to figure out what to do because I was still bleeding.
Yep.
And they started cutting on because I still had my jeans and boots on, and they started cutting my clothes off, and I was kind of embarrassed about that. But then they
Sure.
went to cut my cowboy boots off. Well, my junior, senior summer, I moved to Oklahoma for the summer and
Okay.
went custom combining.
Mm.
And we started in Oklahoma, worked way up to Billings, Montana, from early June to middle of August when I had school in. And
Mm-hmm.
I just bought a brand new pair of cowboy boots in Montana from Harvest. And they
Okay.
went to cut my boots off. I said, "Don't you dare cut my boots." I said,
Right.
"These are brand new boots." I said, "They're ostrich skin. You're not cutting these boots."
Right.
Like, "Oh, it's easier. It's quicker if we cut them off." I said, "You're not cutting my boots off." I said, "Pull these suckers off and you're not going to cut my new boots." And then they did pull my boots off, but they didn't have
Okay.
anywhere to put an IV on me. And so they had to do IVs in
Oh.
my feet. So they couldn't go
Oh.
anywhere else.
Yeah.
And then I had bled out, so all my veins had collapsed, and they couldn't get the IV started. And a foot is so painful to do. Like people who have tattoos on their feet is like that's
Yeah.
painful.
Sure. Yeah.
And so trying to get the IV started in my foot, and it's just killing me.
Oh, I bet.
And then they walked in with this black garbage bag and put it on the table right beside me, not even 3 feet from me, and pulled my arms out and lay them right beside my head. And I'm just like laying there on my back looking at them, like, wow, just
That's wild. That's
yeah.
wild they did that, but I guess they're just trying to.
I tell him every time, I said, that's probably not the best thing to do because most people would probably freak out, and I'm an idiot. I'm like, it's kind of cool. So, but then I was concentrating on that because the IV in my foot was just killing me.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
so painful.
Yeah.
And so I just stood there and watched them washing my arms beside my head, and so
It's just part of my day. I mean, it's the next thing.
yeah,
It's like, wow. Okay. So, and then this is a tiny hospital, but they were, I guess you would say, integral in sort of their next phase of helping just keep you alive to
yeah.
or whatever they had to do to, and then, yeah, take us to where the next thing goes next. So they're deciding what to do.
Well, I'm just laying there, and they said they're going to fly me to Bismarck to treat me for
Mm-hmm.
shock,
Yep.
and I'm like, okay. And they're washing my arms, and they finally got the IV in my feet, or putting back into me. And
Mm-hmm.
luckily, I'm O positive,
Okay.
but it's a small hospital; they didn't have much blood on hand at all.
Sure.
And I ran out of mine, so they just started putting any blood they had in me.
Okay.
And I always made the joke they're taking toilet water and putting in because they ran out of blood.
Got nothing
Well,
left.
then, yeah, they literally ran out. And so they were flying in blood from Bismarck down to Harvey, which is 130 miles, I guess.
Okay.
They're going to fly blood in from St. Alexis and Bismarck. And in the meantime, the helicopter coming back with blood was also going to take me back to Bismarck. And in the
Gotcha.
meantime, my parents, like I said, were down in Bismarck to visit my cousin who's in the hospital. And
Okay.
she was at this hospital at St. A's.
Okay.
Well, back then we didn't have cell phones, and the whole
Mm-hmm.
town knew what happened. My aunt was there. She called down to my aunt in Bismarck, my mom's
Mm-hmm.
sister, said, "Hey, John's in an accident. You need to find Karen and Larry and tell them what's going on." Well, then my family in Bismarck went to the hospitals waiting for my parents to show up.
Mm.
And it just so happened my parents were walking in the hospital. My cousin caught him. It's an Auntie Karen. John's been in a bad accident. And she's like, what happened? How bad is it? And at that very moment, the helicopter was taking off with my blood. And he said, the helicopter leaving right now is going to go get him. And they told my mom what had happened. And then my dad was with her. And they were just
Mm-hmm.
waiting to see what the next phase was.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I was in the hospital in Harvey, I'm just laying there having a regular conversation because my aunt
Yeah.
was there, my cousin came in, my
Okay.
uncle showed up, some other people from town showed up, and all these people coming to see me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just there talking to everybody, and they decided I didn't need to be treated for shock or anything. They just fly me straight to Minneapolis.
Okay.
So then they flew a plane down from Bismarck to Harvey, because you have a little
Mm-hmm.
airport in Harvey.
Okay.
So then they just flew a plane down and backed me down to Minneapolis. And then my dad caught the first plane out of the airport in Bismarck to Minneapolis to meet me at the hospital down there.
Okay. So by this phase, did any of during this entire sort of sequence, like, were you kind of, was there worry, am I going to make it? Or did you just sort of, that there was peace there and you just kind of, that
I
wasn't,
never thought much of it. I just kind of just laid
okay.
there, and
Yep.
it was fun. I mean, it was very normal because one thing that later on, like I said, it was very painful. I'm trying to put the needle in my foot. That was really killing me.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they put the catheter in me, that I could have killed that lady. If I would have had arms, I'd have hit her because that frickin' stung.
Oh yeah.
And I bring it up because it's funny because about 2 years later, we were at a party and my buddy fell down and cut his chin open.
Okay.
And we had to take him to the emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sitting there with him and he had to get stitches and he was all
Yep.
freaking out crying.
Yep.
And this gal walks in and I look and I'm like, you're the gal that put that catheter in me. And she's like, how can you remember that? I said, I'm never forgetting your face. She's like, with everything you went through, you had the memory to remember every little detail about being in there.
That's
I said, I
wild.
remember everything about it. So,
Well, that
I
is,
mean,
yeah. That's wild that your
that's kind of why I
memory.
bring it up.
Yeah.
That she
No,
couldn't
that,
believe I could remember her. But I mean, I was conscious the entire time. They didn't put me on any sedation I was just
okay.
chilling out.
Yeah, because at that point, doing that might have kind of not been good for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay, so now we're headed to Minneapolis. You're at least stabilized to the point, to handle that flight, I guess, or
Yep.
whatever.
They brought me
Yep.
blood, and they had the IVs in my feet. They probably had on my neck too,
Okay.
and getting all the blood in me. And they finally got the blood stopped. And we're flying to Minneapolis on a little prop engine plane. And I remember telling the doctor, I was getting bored again. And so I wanted him to sit me up so I look out the windows. And he said, well, we can't do that. I said, well, I'm bored. I said, I don't look out the window. It's pretty. I don't fly much. That was the second time I flew, actually.
Okay.
And I finally won the argument. He sat me up to look out the windows. And so we just looked out the windows. We were talking about our cattle and the hogs and farming and what winter was like and basketball and all that kind of stuff. And I remember telling them my arms were freezing. I said, my arms are so cold. He's like, John, you don't have your arms. I'm like, well, I know that, but they're cold. And then he had told me that they're on ice and in the cone of the plane. And I told him, well, land the plane and take them off the ice because they're cold. And I remember telling him that.
That's
and he's
wild.
telling me why they had them on ice and stuff. And
Okay.
then we got down to Minneapolis. And I remember landing because when I got off the plane, the first thing I told the EMS down there is, by the way, it's much warmer in North Dakota than it is here. So it's colder and windier in Minnesota than North Dakota.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had to make sure they knew that. And then they loaded me up in the ambulance and took me to the hospital to North Memorial Medical Center.
Mm-hmm.
And then I arrived there and they brought me to the emergency room. My doctor, Alan Van Beek, came in right away. And he's like, introduce himself. He's like, I'm here. We're going to take care of you. You're going to be okay. He's like, but I need to ask you what you want to do. You have two choices. We can either put your arms on or leave them off.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I'm here. Put them on. And he's like, well, before we do that, you have to know the risks. And if we put them on, you're going to get septic. You're going to have infections. There's a chance you're going to lose them again.
Sure.
And it's life-threatening. If we leave them off, there's prosthetics we can put on. You have a much better chance of living. And
Yep.
and he just gave me all the options. I said, well, I'm here. Put them on. And he's like, okay, we're going to go right now. And I said, well, I can't. He's like, why? What's the matter? I said, you have to have my parents' permission or something. And he's like, no, you're 18.
Okay.
We don't need your signature is all we need, or my verbal.
Yep.
And I said, no, I can't do this. And, I was terrified to have surgery. I don't know if my parents would be able to afford it or what it's going
Sure.
to
Right.
cost.
Yeah.
And I started saying, I can't do this. I said, I got to wait to talk to my mom and dad. He's like, we don't have time. We have to go right now. And I said,
Mm.
I can't. And at that very second, my dad walks in.
Wow.
So, and
And
he's like, don't worry about it. Do the surgery. We'll take care of it. We'll worry about it later. And, I talked to my dad for maybe 5 minutes or so because we were rushed to get him put back on.
okay.
And he told me it's going to be okay and go ahead with it. And then I went in for a 6-hour surgery to reattach him.
Wow. So that was the first time you had seen your dad? Was it at that point, or
Yep.
you? Okay. Wow. That reminded me of when my brothers were in a wreck in Montana, and my dad showed up in the elevator with his John Deere old farm hat. And I remember my dad, brothers who were, struggling even to, survive, even seeing dad's presence, his old farm hat. I'm just here. Dad's here.
Mm-hmm.
This is how comforting that was. And yeah. So
it made me feel better.
yeah.
So.
And the timing of when he got there, like you said, right in that moment of being able to like validate, like, yeah.
The time, even like when they got to the hospital, the helicopter was leaving right when they got there. Everything just kind of connected really nice for them.
Yeah. It was unbelievable.
So,
well, and then so just speak a little bit to what you want on that sort of aftermath, the recovery, your time in Minneapolis, and what all that entailed.
The hospital is actually really fun. I had a good time, and people can't figure out how I can say that, but it actually was. That was my. Even now, I am the safest in the hospital. If I'm having anything wrong, I want to go to the hospital because that is my safe spot. Because I woke up in an ICU. And I remember my sister bought me a stuffed rabbit that somebody sent me, a stuffed bunny, a plush toy. And that's my first memory. I can remember I had a nurse who was just a horrible lady. She was an old Army nurse and just
not
a nice, pleasant one.
Yeah, right.
And I remember one nurse I scared because they were giving me a bath and they rolled me over my oxygen tube and I quit breathing. So all the alarms went off and she thought she killed me. And I remember her just crying because she thought she hurt me, and I'm like, "No, is she okay? They're not fine." And I remember those memories. I remember waking up one time and a priest was over me giving me last rites.
Jeez, wow!
And I remember waking up screaming because I thought I was dying.
Yeah.
And then we kicked him out. But then the news started getting around to what had happened, and they asked my parents, like, can we tell people what's happened? Because people are asking back home, they all think I'm dead. And they're like, yeah, let the press know that he's fine, or not fine, but he survived so far.
Sure.
And then it hit the news, and then it just started going crazy. Well, then I had, like, that priest coming up, and a lot of other people and religious people lying. So I'm his uncle, we're his friends trying to get to me. So then I had security with me all the time, and that just kept getting more and more security every day. Wow. So we had more and more people trying to break in the hospital and get to me. And
sure.
So that was just a nightmare.
To kind of surround themselves to this big story that's now,
Yeah. They want to be a part of it. And,
yep, right, for sure.
And I was in ICU for about 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then they moved me up to 7 West, another wing of the hospital. And then I had a charge nurse all to myself. She was the only nurse I had. I was her only patient. And I was with them for quite a while. And this whole time I'm laying in bed. I couldn't do anything. And so they said, okay, we're going to start sitting you up in bed more. Well, when they put my arms up, well, I wasn't in ICU yet. They wanted to take off my one arm. And I said, you're not taking off my arm. He's like, well, it's not getting circulation. It's not pink. It's just blue and it's going to die. And we need to remove it. And I said, you're not taking it. He's like, we need your permission to take your arm off. And I said, you're not taking it. He's like, you're going to die if you don't. I said, I don't care. You're not taking off this arm. And within a few hours, it just started getting pink and the blood started circulating. And because they were determined to take it. And I went,
wow. Jeez.
So I was able to save that one.
Wow.
But I was laying down the whole time. And when they put my arms on, that first they just took metal plates and screwed them on. They shortened my arms. They shortened them 2 inches. Because they couldn't get the nerves and blood vessels connect, so they had to shorten them so you have enough room for everything.
Oh, okay.
And plus the bone is really shattered, so they shortened each arm 2 inches.
Gotcha.
To reconnect everything. Well, then all the skin was completely gone. So then they took skin from my legs, from about the knees up to my waist, And you just take like a cheese slicer and just run it down your leg and take a layer of skin off. And they
Wow.
poke it full of holes to stretch and just lay it over everything to cover everything up. And so it's all, because I have pictures in the book
Yep.
of, from my elbow all the way up was just all skin grafts. And it was just gross looking. And all my legs were just raw meat because they took all the skin off my legs or layers of it.
And then it's like fluid draining, you said too, kind of all that's, yep.
Oh,
So
it stunk. I stunk. Oh, it was so rotten. I mean, it smelled like a rotting corpse all the time.
Yeah.
And when they started sitting me up, that was so painful. That was one of the second things I felt for pain.
Okay.
Because my heart didn't work. When I was laying down, my heart didn't have to pump much blood.
Gotcha.
When I sat up, all the blood ran down my legs. And my legs just turned black when they took all the skin off.
Oh,
because they take the skin off and they just put like saran wrap over it, clear plastic.
Yep.
And they just turn pitch black, so the blood would run to my legs. And that just killed and itched so bad.
Oh, man.
And, it took a couple weeks. I had to learn how to rewalk. I couldn't walk anymore. I had to learn how to do that.
Okay.
But like with the smell, like I stunk so bad, they bring in those little tree air fresheners and hang them around. Well, the one day they hung a tree on each of my ears because they thought so I could do nothing about it. So I'm seeing trees on my ears. And,
dangling.
I mean, I had the funnest nurses. I remember I called for my meds one time and I hit my button and I hear this, bark, 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 bark. I'm like, what the? So I hit my nursing again. There's a cow mooing and I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing out there? Like, well, we know you're feeling homesick for the farms. We're trying to make you feel at home again.
That's
like,
awesome.
well, we don't have chickens on the farm. So my mom's scared of them. And so there's making a bunch of farmyard noises for me to make me feel more relaxed at home.
I love that, though. That's so cool. Yeah.
I mean, I had the best group of nurses, and I really enjoyed myself there. And the security I had amazing security guards.
Okay.
Because I remember one guy got shot in a gang fight, and some girls were up to see him. Well, they heard I was on that floor, and they snuck into my room, and I'm like freaking out.
Right.
And so I'm yelling for the nurses. They came in and got the security and got them out. Well, then they put security guards everywhere because I had a security guard outside my door. I had one down at the end of the hall. Then we had one at the elevator all the time. I had 3 guards nonstop.
Wow.
And like when I went just to change my bandages, I'd have to go to the operating room and be knocked out to change everything.
Yep.
And when I went down, they'd have a security guard behind me, one in front of me at the gurney. We have 2 at the hall and 2 at the elevator. I had 6 security everywhere I went, trying to keep, because people were just everywhere trying to get to me.
Unbelievable.
And I really got used to having just all the protection because I didn't realize how much of a thing it was.
Yeah.
And I remember they came up because Good Morning America was the first show I did.
Okay.
And they came up and said, "Oh, Joan London wants to do this." And I'm like, "Why?" I'm like, "Not a big deal." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And I was one thing people don't realize is I do not like attention at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I came from a school, like my grade school, I was the only kid in my class, 1st through 7th grade. Nobody else was with me. And then my 7th year, a girl came and joined my class who wasn't related to, because in small towns, you're related to everybody.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. And so then she came in 7th grade. Then my high school years, we went to Bowdoin, and then I had 11 of the classmates. And in the school, I was the only boy in the entire school that didn't play sports. Because I hate attention. I don't like people looking at me. I don't like people talking. I don't like attention at all.
Sure.
Well, then I'm going to go on Joan London, the Good Morning America. And it's like, okay. And one thing I look back at is, if you see a military person with scars or something happened to them, you don't go up and say, "What happened to you? Did you do this? Did you do that?" Sure. You kind of have respect for them and don't do that. Mm-hmm. Whereas I didn't get that at all. I'm like, "Oh, what happened to you?" To this day, people are just...
Sure. Yeah.
And it's not something I really care to talk to about a whole lot, which is kind of a thing now.
Yeah.
But so we did the show and done a lot since then, and we did a few more after that. And like I said, we had to teach me how to walk, and that was really interesting. I got to meet Emilio Estevez because he was filming the Mighty Ducks in Minneapolis at the time, the first one.
Okay.
And he called up to the hospital and asked if he could come up and meet me. And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's a guy from Young Guns. Of course I'll see him." And so he came up, and him and I got to be actually good friends. He came up quite a few times. Anytime he had a day off from work, he'd come up to the hospital to see me. And I was always laying down. I remember it was right when I was getting ready to leave. And I remember the first time I got to see him, and I was actually able to stand up and show him, hey, I can walk now and stand up. And I stood up. He's like, oh my God, you're tall, because he's short.
Sure.
And
Okay.
so I'm
Yeah.
by him, and he's like a little tiny guy, and I'm up here. And yeah, he was great because he has a ranch in Montana. And we
Okay.
talked about him on Young Guns, and
Sweet.
uh, we talked about him, shooting everything. And he talked about he went hunting one time. He shot a bunny, and he felt so bad for shooting this poor little bunny rabbit. He'll never shoot another bunny, and
Well, and he would have been at peak fame then. I mean, that was
yeah,
his heyday right there. So,
because the movie he did was Steven Spielberg with a semi, uh,
oh
the
yeah,
Joker one.
yeah.
He hates that movie. He hated doing that movie.
Okay,
I'm like, that's my favorite movie you did. So
that's
yeah, he was
awesome.
up a lot. So that was really
Oh,
good.
that's super cool.
Um,
So,
Him and I can be
so
friends.
what was it like then? Like you said, coming from Bowdoin, this tiny school, and your small town, and like you said, not wanting any attention. I mean, I guess I think that's the powerful pivot in the story of how um, it is. I mean, global, and so you have. Did you find yourself growing into that the more you did sit downs or media stuff where you're kind of like, okay, I'm starting to find my voice or I'm getting more comfortable, or did it, how
It
did
was
that?
weird because, like I said, I didn't like attention. I was extremely shy. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't have any friends in high school.
Hmm.
The first 2 years especially, a lot of my classmates told me I should go home and kill myself. I'll never have any friends. I'll never have a
Jeez.
girlfriend. You're such a loser.
Oh,
And I never had any friends. And then growing up on the farm, the nearest neighbor was 3 miles away.
yeah.
And so it was just me and the cattle and the pigs and my
Yeah.
dog and cats we had on the farm for
Yeah.
friends, really. And I never had any friends growing up in high school. I didn't even want to go to high school. I wanted to switch schools. I just didn't like
Sure.
being there.
Yeah.
And then I had an accident, and then all of a sudden everybody likes me, everybody wants to be my friend, and it was just like a complete reversal of what my whole life had been. So that was
Yeah.
really difficult.
There, I was going to say this later, but what you just said, it fits so perfectly with, this is a quote from your book I highlighted that I love this, and it just speaks to what you just said. You said, at some point you said, I was no longer just a farm kid from Hertzfield, North Dakota. That guy was gone. I had never mourned the loss. It was like I'd gone from the end of puberty straight into a midlife crisis. What a
Yeah.
line. What a line. Um, Kind of showing the tension now of like, here you were, this guy and then now you're thrust in the limelight, whether you like it or not. And now, like, even like grappling with the emotions, you're 18, of like, what's it like to sort of come from this place where a lot of people either cast you aside, didn't like you, or were giving you a hard time. Maybe now, oh, we want, John, now we're all about John, and like trying to navigate, like, is this just because I'm kind of now famous, almost battling kind of that kind of like, yeah, kind of
I
deal.
didn't know yet. I was still in the hospital, and I had
Yep.
security around me 24/7,
Yep.
and I kept everybody at bay. I could watch myself on the news,
Yep.
what they're releasing, but I didn't have I didn't realize how bad it was going to be.
Sure.
And, I did the news conferences. I did a few of them in the hospital, and just all the cameras, because I show the news footage on my socials.
Yep.
And I'm like, I don't know why people make such a big deal out of this. It's not that big of a deal. And when I left the hospital, one of the reporters asked me, what's it like to be going home? And I said, well, I came down 3 pieces. I'm going home in one. And that was just kind of my attitude about it. And we all had a big
Yeah.
chuckle about it, because I said a lot of really off the
Yeah.
tough things that they're
Sure.
like, I cannot believe he's talking this way. And I just kind of just made the best out of it that I could. And one of the things I said is, I'm going to really miss my nurses and my security. I said, I like having somebody here all the time, and then having to go home. Right, I
Yep.
don't have 24 care and security with
Yep.
me all the time. My mom's going to have to do it. And how's
Yep.
this going to work? And then they flew me from Minneapolis to Harvey, because I got to fly in the helicopter from the hospital, which was amazing. It was the fastest non-military military
really?
helicopter made. Yes.
Wow,
it's the
that's
most
cool.
helicopter.
Huh.
And so they flew me back in that to Harvey, because that's what I wanted to do.
Yep.
And we landed in Harvey. Then they got me off the helicopter. My dad flew back with me, and my mom flew ahead.
Okay.
Then my dad flew back with me on the helicopter, because he was in Vietnam. And
Wow.
that's one thing I talk about is people keep saying they're so amazed. I was only 18. I was able to accomplish all this. Oh, you're 18 and you lived through this. You've been through
Mm-hmm.
so much.
Mm-hmm.
And, my dad was 18 when he got drafted out of high school and had to go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
So he's over there in bugs and swamps. His friends are
Yeah.
getting blown up. He's getting shot at. And like,
Sure.
kids back then went through just as much as what I was going through. And,
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
yeah, mine just happened to hit the news media more.
Right.
My
Yeah.
dad went through a whole lot of my age.
Yeah,
But
man, what a
then,
good point. Yeah.
yeah. And so my dad flew back with me. We got to Harvey, did another news conference. And then they just checked me out to make sure I made the flight right and did all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Did another press conference, met all my classmates, a whole bunch of people there. And then they flew me back to the farm. And then we got there. We had State Patrol out there keeping people
Mm-hmm.
away because it
Mm-hmm.
was nuts.
Yeah.
And they got me to the house. And then we loaded me up in the car, drove me in the house. And we're walking inside the house or to get back up in the house. And it was exactly 6 weeks to the day that I'd been gone. And so it's been 6 weeks since I seen my dog Tuffy.
Okay.
And we get to the house and we go into the door that I originally went in. And you go up the 4 or 5 steps to get in. And so they're helping me get the steps because my balance is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to the top of the porch and I'm kind of sitting on the floor like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. Didn't know what happened. They never taught me how to walk up steps when I was in the
Oh,
hospital.
man. Okay.
And I didn't know how to walk up the stairs.
Yeah.
And so I took a step, but I never pushed myself up straight. I just kept getting lower and lower. And because I didn't realize I had to push myself or make my legs straight. And I was kind of sitting on the floor and I got to the top of it. Then they lifted me up and got me in the house. And like, hey, we need to teach you how to walk up steps. And we got in the house and, there's family there and friends. And we're trying to get everything situated. I had few of the press I got to be good friends with. And they were
Okay.
there. And I'm like, just, where's Tuffy? Yes, I want to see my dog. And then we went to the dining room and they helped me get down on the floor. And I sat down on the floor in the dining room. They opened up that sliding patio door that I couldn't get open before. And Tuffy was outside there waiting for me. And they just opened up the door and he came right in, sat in my lap. And because we were all worried he was going to jump on me or something. And he just came in so gentle, just laid on my, and put his head against my chest. And I have the guy from People Magazine got a picture of that for me. So
That's amazing. Legendary dog. Wow.
yeah, he was my hero. So it was for
Unbelievable.
him. I mean, I wouldn't have woke up. I'd have been dead.
Yep.
Once I was awake, I started screaming, and he was looking at me with his head cocked to the side, with his ears sticking up, and I just focused on him and calmed him right down. He's the one that told Rick where my other arm was at, so they could retrieve it, because Rick was leaving without it, and he told him where my arm was at, and actually, we have a lake back in Hertzfield, and I had the lake named after Tuffy. It's Hertzfield
cool.
Tuffy Lake now.
Nice.
So I named the lake after him. So
That's awesome.
just so people know.
Very cool. Well, as we kind of move this thing forward, just whatever you want to kind of share in terms of, then you, as you make the recovery and so many surgeries, was it 60 or you've had in your life since all that, or
yeah, we don't even know. It's
right. Who lost track?
Yeah.
Sort of your fame, acclaim kind of grows and continues to grow. I mean, I was actually thinking what this story would have been like. I mean, it was huge then. What would this be like now? I mean, we're talking about it now, but if this would be current now, right? I mean, good gosh, with Instagram and
I think
but so you're
a lot.
Right,
and,
yeah.
And the GoFundMe pages. I made a
oh my gosh, exactly, right?
I remember when I was in the hospital, we had televangelists calling me. I mean, the religious people were horrible.
Yeah.
And they just would not leave me alone. And I had them calling that they want to be a TV evangelist. And, you're the second coming of Jesus. You have so many followers. You're going to make millions. We're going to put you on TV. And I had people calling me wanting to heal them. They want me to heal them. And my mom made a comment one time, my son is not Jesus Christ.
Right.
Well, then we had a huge back on that she claimed that, but
it
was just nuts how people were.
Yeah. Twisting.
I had a gal in Florida, her son got shot and he wasn't doing well. She wanted to fly him up here for lunch so he could touch me and I could heal him. I'm like, I can't, there's nothing magical about me. It's just,
right.
Just people just would not. I had people showing up at my house and like the police knew where I lived at. They knew very well what was going on because they did security for me. And I called the police station when I was in Bismarck. I said, I got somebody coming to my house. I don't know who they are. Just get up here and get them out of here. And the cops would
Jeez.
just come sit around the corner and wait for cars to pull my driveway, and they pull up behind them and arrest them and
Oh,
take them
unbelievable.
away. And that's happened numerous times. And I've had lots of death threats from people, and I've had people writing me letters saying that I should buy all new ambulances for everybody and new fire trucks and all this stuff. And it was just
Yeah. I was struck by that kind of in your book because you're talking about, it's now there's tons of people inspired by your life, by your story, but there was also so many, sadly, like you said, where they're either using you for some end, trying to get a piece of the fame, and then a lot of, like you said, judgment towards, like, if you were gifted this stuff or these things, like, you should be,
um,
like, a lot of judgment towards your own personal
uh,
decisions of money. Yeah. And it's
everybody knew
like,
what was best for me except for me.
yeah, right.
And it's a thing where, like, now I don't even use my real name. When I'm out in
Yeah.
public, I never use my name. It's
Okay.
always my initials.
Yeah.
Because I don't like, I mean, to this day, I don't like people knowing who I am because
Yeah.
it changed their perspective. I went to vacation in Mexico about 10 years ago. And then went down with the gal I was saying. My whole family went down. It was like 23 of us. And we went to Mexico, and they kept trying to get me to take my shirt off. I said, I'm not taking off my shirt because I'm very self-conscious about my scars.
Sure. Yeah.
And most of the scars I had removed. I had a surgery, removed all the scars. But they're still skinny. I just don't like
Yeah.
doing it. I said, if I take my shirt off, people are going to know who I am, and I wouldn't do it. Well, then I finally got my shirt off, and this couple and their kids from France recognized me. And they went up and asked my girlfriend, like, is that John Thompson? She's like, yeah, you can talk to him. He's going to hurt you. And then the whole resort knew I was there and just kind of, then everybody stared at
No.
me like, oh, it's John Thompson. And
Oh,
he just
yeah.
kind of ruined the whole trip. And so I never took my
Sure.
shirt off
Yeah.
again. So it's just,
Yeah.
it's just weird how, and people don't understand how no matter, even to this day, and people have no boundaries. Like I was saying about military
Yes.
people, they
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
a military guy, they're not going to go up to and do stuff to. Whereas me, I mean, just this winter, a gal did it to me, and she came up and grabbed my arms. He said, "Well, I heard you're John Thompson." I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, everybody's too scared to talk to you. I'm gonna come up and ask if it's you or not." I'm like, "Yeah, it's me." And she grabs my arms, starts flipping around and pulling on him, looking at him. I'm like, "Oh, are you a nurse or a therapist?" She's like, "No, I just want to look at him." I'm like, "Well,
What?
leave me alone then." I mean, you don't know how many times people come up to me and grab my fingers and try pulling them open. Like, open your hands up. And those grab them and start pulling on my fingers.
That's
Like,
crazy.
they have the right to do it. I mean, to this day,
What
they
in
do
the
it all the
world?
time. It's
Wow.
just nuts. And I'm not one to, I have a mouth and I don't
Right.
know.
I bet
And
not, but good
I'll
gosh. I
still
mean,
beat the crap out of somebody. So, and my
you want
friends,
to see these
though,
arms work?
yeah, I mean, it's just nuts how people just
That's
think they have the right
crazy.
to. But they read about me all the time. They see me on TV, on
Yeah.
TV shows, and
Yeah.
they think that they just have, oh, I know
Yeah.
him. He's cool.
Yeah.
And I can
Yeah.
grab a hold of his fingers and
Right.
pull him
Right.
open. And it's like, no, I don't like being touched. And,
Sure.
for when I travel, because I did a lot of speaking, I've done a lot in politics, and I just went everywhere around the country. And I
Yep.
always had security. I had my own private bodyguards. And I remember one time we went to the Drake threshing show in Drake,
Okay.
North Dakota.
Yep.
And me and my friend went, who did security work for me. And we just went down just for something to do. And we got down there, we go, oh, let's go to town and get something to eat in Drake. It's an old restaurant with hardwood floors in it.
Sure.
And we walked in, and we're sitting down, and hear this thunk. We took his coat off. And he threw his jacket on the floor. I'm like, what was that? He's like, did you hear that? And I'm like, yeah, what happened? He's like, I dropped my gun. And I'm like, why are you carrying your gun with me? He's like, I always carry when I'm with you. I said, I'm not working. You don't need, my security was, he would not go with me unless he was armed because he just knew how people treated me.
Just knew. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a buddy, another guy, he worked for Shania Twain and Garth Brooks as private security that worked for me. And he just couldn't believe how, he's like, they treat you way worse than most two people are treated. He just couldn't believe how people reacted to me. And people showing up at my house and, constantly being threatened. And I had a neighbor that said he was going to sue me because the base of my stereo was cracking the walls on his house. Well, his house is like 40 feet from my house. I'm like, well, if my stereo's breaking your walls, mine would be falling in. But I've been trying to be sued so many times with death. It's just a constant thing. So
That's horrible. Well, on the positive end of this is that you have and continue. It sounds like you're continuing to be sort of at least a national speaker on farm safety. You've had so many things, and
Yeah.
I've seen you in schools, and just it's been an amazing journey through that. Like, what would you say, sort of on sort of the positive end of whether the fame or that journey that's really been kind of a highlights for you of getting to do that kind of stuff?
All the good stuff I've been able to do. I mean, I've done a
Hmm.
lot of blood drives.
Okay.
I used to work for United Blood Services,
Yep.
and I was a spokesperson for them. I did a lot of blood drives. And I was able to raise money for them. I worked with 3 different presidents, and
Wow.
like the Clintons were the big ones because when they were doing
Hmm.
their health care, I was working with
Okay.
Hillary one on one with
Hmm.
her, and she helped me with getting more funding for ambulances in North Dakota and around the
Okay.
country, and better
Cool.
services and try to get things set up for them and more funding.
Hmm.
And I worked with her quite a bit actually. Her and I
Okay.
got to be decent friends, and I
Yeah.
love doing political stuff, and
Okay.
so that was really cool.
That's
And now
cool.
I've done the North Dakota firefighter school twice now. Those are usually in January. We have that
Okay.
here in Minot. I've done that twice.
Yep.
Where I speak to the firefighters. I do a
Okay.
lot of training for them. I talk to EMS. Every time I do a public speaking thing, I said bring EMS. I want the EMS guys there to
Yep.
try and talk to them, let them meet
Sure.
me, and it's the thing where it's just to tell them what they get trained on this all the time, but to
Yep.
hear from me, this is
Yep.
what your patients probably be going through and how they're feeling, and I can tell them that. And a big thing is just to thank them. I mean, if you're not
Yeah.
my EMS, when I see a firefighter or a paramedic or something like that, I mean, like, you're my family, and those are the people
Yeah.
that saved my life, and
Yeah.
they're so well deserved of it and
That's awesome.
the acknowledgement.
And I'm sure you have more than you can remember, even of just whether it was letters or just people that came up to you to just say how much, you're just courage or whatever, resilience inspired them to keep going. I mean, I'm sure you
Yeah.
could just talk for hours on that, just,
There's
yeah.
a kid from Arkansas. He was, I think, 12, and he was grinding chicken feed in his chicken coop, and he got both of his hands caught in the chicken feed grinder, and got him caught and chewed up, and he was just sitting
Mm.
there bleeding to death because he couldn't open the doors. He had nothing there.
Yep.
And then he remembered my story, and then he bit the knob of the chicken coop to open it.
Wow.
Which in chicken
Crazy.
coop, that's disgusting, but that's how he got out. Was
You'll
remember my
deal with it.
story.
Yeah.
Ah,
Wow.
and that got in the news because I was still in the hospital. That got to me, and him and I are friends on Facebook now.
That's
and
crazy. Very
he's
cool.
actually a cornhole champion around the country.
Really? Jeez.
So,
That is wild. Yeah.
so I met some great people.
And you still speak when you're, like schools and different things where you'll go
Yeah.
out and EMT type stuff. That's awesome.
I've just started
So-
really getting back into that again because I quit doing it for quite a while because I was doing every week. I was just
Yep.
nonstop running, and I did
Yep.
everything on my own. I've never
Yep.
hired anybody to help me, and it
Sure.
just got to be way too much. So
Yeah.
I backed
Well, I
off
was gonna
for a
say,
while.
like, is because sort of you writing the book, was that sort of the catalyst for getting sort of a new presence on socials and stuff? Because it's like all of a sudden your story, like even how I found you and saw you, I'm like, it's John Thompson again. Like, whoa, he's like, what kind of reinvigorated this whole thing with your story? Is it a lot of your book then, or
No, the
coming
book
out?
came out in 2002. I did it for my 10th anniversary, and that came out in 2002. My book originally. And then I had a publisher, and they were going to do all the publicity for me, do everything, and they weren't doing anything for me. Well, then they wouldn't pay me for nothing. They wanted a whole lot of money and wouldn't give me any money that I was making on it. And so I ended up having to sue my publisher. But when I did that, they put a gag order on me. So I couldn't talk about why I did that.
Gotcha.
Well, we sold out of books, and I went to get a new publisher. And they're like, well, why do you need a new publisher? What's with your old one? And I said, I can't tell you, there's a gag order. And they're like, well, why? And I said, I can't say anything. Well, I lost every publisher I had that wanted the book because they didn't know what the gag order was about.
Okay.
And I had movie deals set up with, like, Victoria Principal was one of them. Who
Oh,
wanted to do the movie. And they had other studios that wanted the rights to the movie. And they're asking me, like, well, what's with the gag order? And I'm like, I can't
Yep.
tell you. So it scared off all my movie studios. So that's why we never got the movie done. Was because this publisher I had. And he finally died last year. So now I can actually talk about everything and tell people why I never got the book reprinted and why we lost the movie deal.
okay. That's what that, because I was wondering, because it shows, like, say on Amazon, or it shows it's sort of like from a March release, right, of this
Yeah.
year, but that's actually, you're saying that's a re-release of the original book.
Yes.
Okay. That really okay, because I was curious what the gap was of this coming out now, this many
Uh,
years later. But
it's
you're
because of the
okay.
gag
That
order.
makes gotcha.
Um,
Okay, so but it's now sort of this new life, I guess, behind through it being re-released or in this new way or whatever. That yeah.
well, because I've had
So
TikTok and Facebook,
yep,
and I just posted on TikToks. I just started doing every once. I went for a drive. I posted me driving somewhere, and
yep,
I got like maybe 30 people looking at it.
sure,
And then I was doing the North Dakota firefighter school, and I
yep.
posted me a video of me speaking there. And in the video, I was wearing tight jeans, and it just people are just upset about me wearing tight jeans, and I'm like, whatever. And it just exploded, and I got like 3.5 million views or something
Dang.
from there. And then the TikTok just went viral.
Okay.
Then I'm like, okay, well then I started doing uh, Facebook more, and then I got Instagram in March, and so I started posting on this. I never used Instagram before or
Yep.
Reddit, and I
Yep.
started doing those, and I have like almost 40,000 followers on Instagram in like 4 weeks. It just blew up, and
Yeah.
I've never done this before. And I just actually had a meeting with a gal last Wednesday about interning for me to help me with social media because
Oh, nice.
I've never done it before.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'm doing. And I've had many of my videos going well over 2, 3 million, and I don't know what it
Unbelievable.
means or anything.
Yeah. Right.
I'm
Right.
trying to learn
What's
how to
this
do it
all?
all and
That's
going
awesome,
back
though.
into speaking and doing stuff.
Very cool. So there's kind of a new chapter, so to speak, of new life behind this, and you're kind of getting back out there. And yep,
Yeah.
I love
And plus,
that.
I couldn't say a whole lot of stuff. Well, before I couldn't talk about stuff because of the gag order with my book.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when I wrote the first book, I couldn't say a whole lot of things because from a small town, like, oh, you can't say this, you can upset this person, you can upset that person.
Sure.
I couldn't, in my book, I don't talk about me being really shy and people saying that I should go kill myself because
Yeah.
that make people look bad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now I don't care. I'm like,
So
I
far
don't care if you're,
removed.
I don't care if you're mad at me about it. And
Right.
I
Yeah.
was always, my whole life, I've been protecting people and I don't
Yeah.
anymore. I don't care.
Sure.
I'm like,
Yeah.
if people are mad at you for being a prick to me, then they can be mad at you for being that way to me.
Well,
So
there you go.
I just don't protect
So,
people anymore.
yeah.
So
Well, yeah. I mean, you've had a lot of hard stuff, and I can see where some of just even being jaded about just how bad people have treated in some realms. It's sad, really is.
um,
Um, I was gonna as we kind of close this part of the book down and get this to the finish line here. I loved another highlight from your book. I quote or highlighted was you said this. I'm grateful for the life I now have, and for those who helped me arrive at this point. My arms were saved, and I survived the wave of notoriety and emotional chaos that followed my accident. I've developed a greater appreciation of simple things like the sense of touch. I truly enjoy being able to feel things, and you kind of expound on that. Um, I thought it was really fascinating. You really explained this well in this conversation. Of it was almost like the survival of just yourself, your life, getting through that accident was the first one phase, and then you had another survival coming of the notoriety
yeah,
and the craziness of the mob scene and all this kind of stuff. Fascinating that you wouldn't have predicted that probably. Like
yeah.
that.
And they
Yeah.
people are so amazed that I got through the accident. I'm like, that was easy.
Hmm.
I just walked to the house and
Yeah.
I was taken care of. That was the
Yeah.
simplest thing to do was my accident. It was just dealing with the public afterwards was
That all came out
the
after.
hardest part. So and
Yeah.
it still is tough to get
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. Well, if you, I'm going to post a link to the book for sure. And like I said, I really enjoyed it. It is really, like we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, I love it with your sense of humor woven in, just being real, being, kind of your mindset throughout the thing, throughout your journey and your life. It really was captivating and really had some inspiring stuff and really appreciated that. Yeah, very, very powerful. What is your big hope for when people read the book, kind of their takeaway or what you're kind of hoping for that?
Now it's just not to take things too serious and just to roll with the punches.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I realize now that, when I woke up in the hospital, they put me on disability right away. They said, oh, you'll
Mm-hmm.
never be able to work. You're on
Yeah.
disability.
Yeah.
And when you're on disability, you're not allowed to work and make money because you'll lose your disability benefits.
Yeah.
And so I've never really went out and got an actual job because I can't lose my disability
Sure.
and never realized that. Well, I never pumped gas before in my
Oh,
vehicles after my
okay.
accident
Yeah.
because I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I was told, well, you can't do that. We'll do it for you. So people have always pumped my gas for me.
Yep.
And in 2014, well, even in the early 2000s, I started racing cars
Okay.
and doing demolition derbies and Duro races, which was a
Cool.
blast. And in 2014, I started working for a farmer. And all I had to do was drive the hay truck back and forth. I just
Yep.
delivered hay.
Okay.
And one day there's no gas in the truck. I said, you need to put gas in here. He's like, well, do it yourself. I said, I can't pump gas. He's like, I've seen you do everything. Put your own gas in. And I mean, it was 2014. I didn't pump gas
Yeah.
for 12 years because I was told I
Sure.
couldn't. And I started doing it. I pump gas by myself all the time. And I was only supposed to drive the pickup, the hay truck back and forth. Well, then I'm out there mowing hay, I'm raking hay, I'm baling, I'm using the hay binder. I'm running the skid steer. We had a joystick case skid steer that I started running, which people
Nice.
thought I could never do, but he thought I could do it. I mean, he gave me the motivation, the confidence, and nobody's ever done it before. Everybody else is like, oh, you're disabled. And one thing I really tell parents, the worst thing you can do to your child is make them think they're disabled. Never hold them back. If they want, don't help them.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, people were mad at my parents because they thought they should sell the farm and move with me wherever I go and take care of me. And I won't let them. I try to get away from my parents
Yeah.
because they would do everything for me.
Right.
And you just need to kick your kids out and like take care of yourself. You can do it and figure it out.
No, that's a great some great insight of so really it's empowering them to
It was just the last few years I realized I couldn't even pump gas until my boss Miles said, do it yourself. He said, I've seen you run a skid steer, you can put gas in the tank.
Yeah.
But it was just I was always told I couldn't, and people just did it for me all the time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I love that. And I've seen on kind of your socials, like you've been posting things of just showing like whether it was a chainsaw or just weed eating and different things. I'm like super cool to like just demonstrating what you can do. I mean,
beating me up with the chainsaw too.
Well, I saw that.
Ear protection, the pants. I'm like,
yeah, I saw that.
Get really upset when the storm comes through. Your neighbors out there in shorts and flip flops cutting up trees with the chainsaw.
Is that an OSHA approved helmet, John?
Oh,
That's just crazy.
People make such. I'm like, you people are such. I mean, they're telling me I should never have my arms put back on. I should have them cut off. I just rip them off again, and
it's unbelievable. Just, people think they're entitled to, well, as we close this out, what right now are you kind of finding inspiration personally yourself in 2026? Where are you kind of being inspired in the world?
Really not. I've never really looked up to anybody. Only people I really looked up, like Princess Diana, I really looked up to her. And then I used to have a friend of mine who was an orphan kid, and he went through his whole life, and he grew out of the adoption or the foster. He grew out of foster care and joined the military, and I just admired him to like no end.
Awesome.
But he was one that when we go out, he'd always have to tell, oh, this is John Thompson, this is John Thompson. And I'm like, don't tell people who I am, because I mean, I'm literally afraid of people that when I go out in public that they'll know me, because I've had so many people just hate me. I was in Texas in the early 2000s speaking and taking questions, and one of a gal from Fargo asked me a question. I'm like, yes, question. She's like, do you know how much North Dakota people hate you? And I said, yes, I do. I hear it all the time. And I'm actually paranoid in North Dakota going out because I'm just used to a lot of that from people around here.
Where does that come from? Isn't that supposed to be
I'm just told it's just a jealousy thing. And, I used to have a bar I hung out with all the time. And a guy took my hat from me. And I'm like, give me my hat back. He's like, no. And I'm like, give me my hat. He would not give me my hat. He's like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, I can't do nothing.
Right.
And he's like, well, if you want it back, take it off yourself. And I'm like, what do you expect me to do? And
are we in
another
sixth grade again?
Yeah. Another friend, he was doing something to me. And I said, what are you doing? I said, this offends me in no way. He's like, well, I know, but it's funny, and you can't do nothing about it. Somebody else would knock my teeth out, but you can't, so that's what we do to you. And, I get that, and I just kind of stopped hanging out with a lot of people, so.
Yeah, well, that's tough.
Oh.
Well, this podcast has had a lot of inspiring people on, so if you're sitting around someday or driving somewhere and you want to hear a few other other people and their stories have really, that's kind of been what I've tried to do on this. So, but you're definitely, yeah, you inspired me, again, here in 26. Fascinating to find your story again and pick back up and, with what's happening in your life.
I just tell people because, the magazines are, he's too tough to die, like people, and
Yeah.
here he goes
Yeah.
again. He's so
Yeah.
strong, he can do anything. And people want to touch me to heal him. And there's
Mhm.
absolutely nothing fascinating about me. I'm not above anybody else. There's
Yeah.
nothing special about me. I said, what I did is in every person. Everybody can do it. And like I said, my dad was 18 and shipped out to Vietnam. It's just
Yeah.
a survival instinct I had. And when it happens, it kicks in. And what I did is available for everybody to do. So
It's
that's one thing I
amazing.
like to tell people.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just even how the brain works and what you don't think that you're able to maybe do, or that's amazing. So,
And the credit to my dog.
Yeah, and the role your dog played in all of that as well. So, if you could design a billboard, what would be on the billboard as we close this thing out?
Believe in yourself. Because if you don't depend on other people, you got to take care of yourself, and you always have yourself there for you, and not everybody's going to be there all the time. So just trust yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely been your story and kind of resilience and getting through adversity. And so, well, John, I really grateful to have you join me on this podcast and really retell the story that you've told so many times, and we'll continue to tell. And it's been a really, really fun conversation with you. And
I've had a good time. Thank you much.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the episode today. Check out the show notes for any links or resources shared in the episode. If you enjoy the podcast, it would be really appreciated if you'd subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share it with friends. May we all remember these words from writer Mary Oliver. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it.